Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, oh God, yet another Brahms cycle. I know. They never end, do they? And in this case, it's even more kind of depressing because it features Zubin, Mehta, and the Munich Philharmonic, and it was recorded this year in January. You've got all four symphonies on 4 discs. That's all that's there. And probably that's a good thing. Now, let's be straightforward and honest and say this is vastly superior to his recent Beethoven cycle, which was an absolute disaster and a really very sad commentary on, a conductor who's given a lot of pleasure to a lot of people, made some fabulous recordings, but is in the twilight of his career. And, there seem to be so many of those lately. Really, aren't there? I mean, we just heard awful Daniel Barenboim stuff that sounds like he's quite frankly near the end of everything. And Michael Tilson Thomas is sick and has brain cancer, and Herbert Blomstedt is sort of creeping along. I mean, sometimes he's on, sometimes he's not. There just seems to be this endless collection of really old, decrepit artists who won't stop and make room for young, decrepit artists. No, I mean, younger artists have a chance. I am not sentimental when it comes to these people's careers. I may love them, I may admire them personally, but my only interest is what the music sounds like and whether they're still capable. This sort of shows that Mehta has his moments. And we'll go through it in a little more detail in a second, but, the difference between the Beethoven cycle and this probably is the orchestra, because the Munich Philharmonic is a fine orchestra that knows these symphonies cold, and I mean they could probably do just about as well without him. That's the reality. So you're not going to get terrible performances, but you do get some dull ones. Inconsistent performances. And Mehta has done fine Brahms. He did some good Brahms with the New York Philharmonic and some really good Brahms, an excellent cycle with the Israel Philharmonic on Sony, which is still available. I just saw it on Amazon. And it contains like all the exposition repeats and the symphonies that have them. And they're very, very good performances. So, if you want him doing Brahms, and you should hear his Brahms, it's worth hearing. Get the Sony cycle with the Israel Phil. His Brahms is conventional. It's big and rich and romantic and moderate in tempo, and you're not going to hear crazy things or slashes of what some of us would call insights. I don't know if they are or not, but they have individuality. No, that's not sort of his thing. He plays the music really beautifully. And quite well when he was on, as he was with the Israel Philharmonic Brahms cycle, more than the New York Phil, although the sonics have a lot to do with the difference between those two as well. But the point is, here he is, just expensively doing 4 Brahms symphonies on 4 separate CDs, and he's competing with himself, and he's just not as good. And who's going to tell these people? Or maybe, look, it's fine if he gives a live concert and people, I read some reviews. I was really curious about this and Googled him. And, he was running around doing Brahms symphonies for the past few years. He did some in California that got very positive reviews. Maybe the concerts were very nice. It's entirely possible because from what I hear here, he can still deliver the goods when he's, up for it. But there are other times where I really get a sense that starting at the beginning of the symphonies, which is really good, he starts to tire out by the end. And that could just be a function of his physical condition. The first symphony is an excellent case in point because, it begins well enough. He takes the inner movements beautifully. The andante is flowing. He's not slow like he's, near death. He keeps the andantes moving in a real andante. The scherzo interlude is lovely. Where he loses it is in the finale, which is just 18 minutes of slog. It's dire. It just never wakes up. And that's a shame because he was going very well. The second symphony, on the other hand, is really pretty good. Is it my favorite second? No. Is it a great performance of the second? Well, not exactly. The problem is that Mehta is he doesn't worry so much about accents And ensemble is minor technical imperfections and things that he might have been more on top of, just keeping things together. But the second flows beautifully, and the finale, which you would think would die a thousand deaths, is actually pretty alert. And the ending is exciting. He galvanizes himself to do it well. That's the high point of this cycle. The third is a dud. The third is so often a dud, isn't it? I mean, the opening movement is just interminable. And the finale, again, it seems to get slower as it goes. And it needs to have bite. My God, that finale, jump, da-dum, 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 da. You've got to have these sudden eruptions of force throughout it. It's like, flashes of lightning as the music goes. There's no lightning here. There's no lightning at all. None, zero. Fourth Symphony. The first movement is beautiful, really beautifully played and wistful, and it's powerful stuff. It's beautiful. The slow movement is not too slow. It's 11 minutes. It's really nicely done. It has that ballad-like character that gives it that sort of, the primal quality. The scherzo is a bore. It just doesn't have the edge, the necessary edge. And the final Passacaglia, I mean, it's not a function of tempo. It's a function of dynamics, and it's a function of accent. And the end is, it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. It's not abominable, not dreadful, but it's also by no means great Brahms. And he has really great Brahms in him. So that's the sad truth. I mean, it's nice that he's able to do this stuff, but let's not kid ourselves. He isn't what he used to be, and it's unfortunately reflected here. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.